Michael, and I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys. Welcome to those of you guys that are here, and welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is what we call our Pali Canon in English study group. I'll explain to you guys what that is after we do our meditation, because we start each class with meditation. So I'll invite you guys to join for meditation. Whether you're here at the temple or you're joining online, we can do meditation together to get started, and then we'll move into learning the teachings of the Buddha that are going to help you on your journey to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind has eliminated all the causes and conditions that are producing feelings such as anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these discontent feelings and others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. You don't even have the slightest displeasure in the mind by the time the mind is actually enlightened. You'll notice that there's focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Your personal and professional relationships are going to really blossom because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships any longer. You're not even in a bad mood. By the time you get to enlightenment, all the causes and conditions that produce a bad mood have been uprooted. So the mind is always joyful, it's always uplifted, it's always bright. And one of the ways that you accomplish this is through meditation. But there's other things that you need besides just meditation. That's why we study the original teachings of the Buddha, in order to provide you the guidance that you need in order to cultivate wisdom and be able to get to enlightenment. So let's start out with meditation, and then we'll go from there, and I'll share some more with you guys about the path to enlightenment using the teachings of the Buddha. The meditation that I'm going to share with you guys is called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is the primary form of meditation that the Buddha used in order to move his mind to enlightenment. But as I said, you need more than just meditation in order to get to enlightenment. But nonetheless, this is a primary form of meditation that you would need in order to move the mind to enlightenment. The way that we start with meditation is I ease in the meditation with some chanting. If you'd like to chant along, you're welcome to. The chants are on a laminated sheet over there on the table. You're welcome to get one if you like, and maybe even someone can hand them out, and we can have them around the classroom, because we're going to be chanting in the Pali language. This is the historical language of the teachings of the Buddha, and you'll see the English translations on there as well. And when you look at these English translations, you might notice that there's a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And the reason why is because these chants were most likely created by his students. These chants most likely weren't created by the Buddha himself, because a Buddha has eliminated their anger, their sadness, and all those other discontent feelings, but they've also eliminated their ego. They no longer have arrogance and pride and boastfulness. They're not looking down on people and kind of measuring and comparing and putting themselves above or below others. So these chants, they have a lot of respect and gratitude and admiration for the Buddha. So because of that, I know that the Buddha wouldn't have created these himself, because he's not going to hand out chants and say, hey, chant this to me and to show me gratitude and respect and these kinds of things. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and the sadness and the frustration and all those other feelings to this peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, and it's a permanent mental state, if someone's helped you to accomplish that and they didn't want anything from you and they didn't expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So the students that study with the Buddha, and even now people, have enormous amounts of respect for him because of what he did in order to share these teachings to help people move to this enlightened mental state. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Everything that he taught was oral. The technology to write things down existed in China, but it hadn't made its way to that region of the world yet, where the Buddha was teaching in what we refer to as Northeast India. That's the main place that he was teaching. And you might not see writing something down as technology, but 2,500 years ago, this was technology. And just like technology nowadays slowly moves throughout the world, the same thing occurred back then. So the technology to write things down didn't exist during the lifetime of the Buddha in that region of the world. So the way that they were able to remember the teachings is they would do chanting. Every 2 weeks, they would recite his teachings orally, and this committed them to memory. memory. So when we're doing these chants, you shouldn't look at them as anything mystical or magical. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. And remember that the chants were only used in order to commit the teachings to memory. And we actually don't need to chant today in order to get to enlightenment, because we have books and audiobooks and videos and podcasts. All these things capture the teachings of the Buddha, but we still chant in order to ease the mind into meditation, because it helps you to cultivate awareness of mind and awareness of the breath, so that as you ease into meditation, you'll actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you'd like to chant along as I'm chanting, you're more than welcome to join along. And for those of you guys online, you can get access to this chanting sheet by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. Click on free books, and down towards the bottom, you'll see this chanting sheet that you can chant along with us if you'd like. So after the chanting, then I'm going to come in with some guidance. I'm going to help you guys to understand how to be meditating as we're actually meditating. You'll hear me kind of guiding you through the meditation. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Everyone here and everyone online, we're just all going to be meditating at the same time. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. We're going to do the same chants that we did on the way in. We'll do those on the way out. And then that's where I'll start the class and start guiding you guys and helping you understand what the Pali Canon and English study group is. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, the Buddha taught 4 positions. He taught seated, lying, standing, and walking. And the reason why is because you're going to need these different positions at different times, because your body can't be in the same position all the time permanently. It's not possible. But let me give you some guidance on the seated position, because this is how people typically learn when they're first getting started, is in the seated position. So if you're on the floor or in a chair, maybe at home you're on a sofa or in a wheelchair, something like this, maybe on a bench, you can really sit however you're comfortable. There's not just one way to actually sit. So what I share with you is just guidance, just to kind of help you get started. So oftentimes people like to have a cushion or 2 or 3 under your rear. This is nice to have a cushion or so under your rear. It kind of softens your seat. And then if you're sitting on the floor, you might just lightly cross your legs. Whereas if they're real tight, it'll impede the circulation and it'll hinder you from being able to sit comfortably, because you'll experience pain in the lower body. So if you just have your legs lightly crossed, this is usually best. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and this allows the circulation to flow. So if you like to put your legs off the mat, that's an option for you as well. Essentially find what's comfortable for you. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. So if you'd like to sit with your hands like that, you're more than welcome. But remember, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way, because all of our bodies are different. We're going to find different things to be comfortable. So here's some other options that you might consider. You could put your palms on your thighs. You could put them on your knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people like to rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So whatever's comfortable for you, you can just find that position with your lower body and your hands and arms. And for those of you guys that are in chairs or a sofa or a bench or something like that, or a wheelchair, people usually like to put their feet flat on the floor or maybe cross at the ankles, but there's lots of different options for that too. So you just find whatever's comfortable for yourself. The upper body should be erect. By having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, so that you can actively train the mind. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, and you'll actually get easier opportunity to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose by having the sternum up and the shoulders back. So again, I'm going to ease us into chanting, or ease us into meditation with some chanting, and then I'm going to come back in with some guidance to help you. And by the way, I'm a little bit sick, so I apologize for my voice. I'm not sure how the chanting is going to come out. I've been sick for about a week or so, but I'm going to do the best I can, and you guys are welcome to join along and just drown me out with your chanting, so then we'll be able to hear the beautiful sound of us harmonizing together. Okay? Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanhang Apivateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang namasami. Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang namami. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Iti piso mahakava arahang samma sambuddho vicacaranang sambuddho Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to your next inhale, breathe in naturally through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start focusing the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind focused on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off and let it go. Come back to the breath. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาควาพุทธังมหาควันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาควตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาควโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาควาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามานุสนังพุทโธภาควาติโอเค Okay, if you guys would like to slowly ease your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you. Welcome to those of you guys that joined us since we started meditating. Even welcome to those of you guys joining online as well. As I mentioned, today is our Pali Canon in English study group, and I'll explain to you guys what this is as we get going. But first, I'd like to just kind of mention a few things. For those of you guys that it's your first time here at the temple, the very last door on the back of the classroom on the right, there's a bathroom there. You're welcome to use that at any time. Feel free to get up and use the restroom, make yourself comfortable. There's even restrooms outside the classroom. If you go out to the parking lot, you'll see signs that'll take you around to the main temple bathroom. You're welcome to use those at any time. We have water and even some snacks and juice sometimes shows up from our students here. If you'd like to help yourself to that, just make yourself comfortable as you're learning today. So as I was mentioning at the beginning of our class, the teachings of the Buddha are here to guide you to this enlightened mental state. What enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, it's calm, it's serene, it's content with joy. This is a permanent mental state that you can actually cultivate and you can train your mind to achieve. And this is accomplished through eliminating certain pollutions in the mind. The Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions in the mind that when you uproot those pollutions, your mind will move into this natural state where it's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You'll notice that you're no longer experiencing any discontent feelings. All the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all of these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind. You don't even have the slightest displeasure. Sometimes we think in the human state that we're just subjected to these feelings and we're just always going to experience these for the rest of our life. And oftentimes we actually blame these feelings on other people. You might think that other people are causing you to be angry or other people are annoying you. But what you can see in the teachings of the Buddha is you can learn the truth and you can awaken to the wisdom of what's called the natural laws of existence, where you can actually see and understand how the world is functioning around you. There are certain natural laws that the Buddha describes that when you awaken to the wisdom of these natural laws, you can navigate the world more readily. Because when you're experiencing the anger and the sadness and frustration and any of those other discontent feelings, this is the mind struggling and having difficulties because it lives in a world that it doesn't understand. When you walk out into the world and you don't understand these natural laws, you'll struggle and you have difficulties. You'll tend to make unwise decisions and they produce unwholesome results. Or these unwholesome results are often referred to as gama, or you might have heard the word karma being used. The word karma is from the Sanskrit language, where the word gama is from the Pali language, and the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So people who study the original words of the Buddha will tend to use the word gama instead of karma. What this is cause and effect, or action and result. It's not punishments and rewards. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's not even about who's to blame or who's at fault. This natural law isn't being overseen by any being or any entity and dishing out punishments and rewards. It's nothing mystical or magical. Literally what it is it's cause and effect, or action and result. When you make decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome results, or wholesome gama. And when you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome gama, or unwholesome results. So what the Buddha is helping you to do is awaken to the wisdom of these natural laws so that you can navigate this natural law of gama very readily, making wise decisions in your life that are producing wholesome results. Because, for example, when you're angry and you're bitter and you're harsh and you're hostile, when you're argumentative and you're doing this with the people around you, and that's what you're putting out, that's what's going to come back to you. But when you can transform your mind through training your mind to be loving and kind and warm and gentle and friendly and polite and respectful, and you can do this in all situations, what you're putting out is this politeness and kindness and friendliness and respect. What you're going to notice more and more is that's coming back to you. It's not going to be instantaneous, but over time, as you train your mind more and more, and you can learn how to speak in ways that are wise, that are wholesome, you're going to notice that more and more wholesome things are happening in your life. But right now, with the lack of wisdom of these natural laws, you'll find it a challenge to be able to navigate the world and have relationships that are at ease and where you're experiencing peace and calmness in your relationships, because you need to be able to train your own mind. And that's what the teachings of the Buddha do for you. If you're interested in learning about this and really getting started, this afternoon at 1 p.m., I'm going to be doing a kind of a 2 or 3 hour course where I'm going to be teaching you guys an introduction to the teachings of the Buddha. You're welcome to come. You don't have to sign up or anything. If you're here at 1 o'clock, I'm going to be starting and just kind of introducing students to the teachings from a high level. And I'm going to be sharing with you the very first teaching of the Buddha. The very first teaching is called the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths are 4 simple statements where you're going to understand the problem in your mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. He's going to explain to you in 4 simple statements in a way that you can independently verify why your mind keeps experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings over and over. Because if you didn't understand what was causing them, you wouldn't ever be able to eliminate them. And as long as you have the lack of wisdom to think that other people are causing you to be angry, you'll never actually solve this problem. You're just going to be angry and frustrated the rest of your life. You'll stay stuck in this continuous cycle of experiencing frustration and annoyment and agitation over and over. So if you're interested this afternoon at 1 p.m., I'm going to be sharing that, and it'll be about a 2.5 hour class where I'll be able to help introduce you to the teachings of the Buddha from a high level, but then we're going to go into detail about his very first teaching called the Four Noble Truths. Today's class is a very different type of class because we have different courses and different programs and different retreats here. These different classes, courses, and retreats are guided towards different people and wherever they are in their journey to enlightenment. So if you're just starting to understand the teachings of the Buddha, and even if you've been studying them for a while and you just haven't experienced enlightenment, or maybe you don't even know what enlightenment is, this afternoon at 1 p.m. is a great time to be able to start. And then on Sundays and Wednesdays, we have what's called our group learning program, where people start with this book. It's titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is the very first book of our book series. And every Sunday I go chapter by chapter in this book. And over a 7-month period, you can learn all the foundational teachings that you need in order to get to enlightenment. And we're actually going to be restarting this program on October 20th. And we teach it here at 9 a.m. and I live stream it as well. So no matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to attend the class. And then at 9 p.m., I do it from home on Sunday and Wednesday as well, and I live stream that. So no matter where you are in the world, you can get access to this book for free. You can download it from our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can get the free access to it. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions on Amazon if you have access to Amazon, or here at the temple, you can get them by just reimbursing us for our printing costs, because this first book is what's going to guide you in developing your practice to be able to eliminate these discontent feelings. And then there's the program on Sundays and Wednesdays that are going to walk you through that. Then on Monday, I'm going to be starting a course. It's a 5-day course where 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., I'm going to be developing and helping students to understand the foundation of the path to enlightenment. Over the course of 5 days, you're going to get, in a consolidated period, an opportunity to be able to learn all the foundational teachings. And then the last day, Friday, I take students out on the tour through the various temples that are a forest temple and a temple up on a mountain, and I kind of walk through and teach you the artwork, the architecture, and the symbolism of the temples. But for the 4 days in the classroom, I'm teaching you the teachings of that, what it takes to be able to cultivate your mind and train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. And there's various courses and retreats throughout the year. They're all on our bulletin board. They're all on our website. But what today is about, today is our Pali Canon and English study group. What this is out of this 13-book series that I share, like I mentioned, the group learning program on Sunday and Wednesdays goes through volume 1. But on Saturdays, we go through volumes 2 through 13. And this is a 1.5-year program. And what people usually do is they take one of our foundational courses in order to build kind of like a framework or a foundation of the teachings. And then this particular program on Saturdays, we kind of fill in that framework and help bring it to life even further, studying the original words of the Buddha in more of a study group, where traditionally the way I teach is a more traditional format where I'm going to be teaching for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I open up to questions. And then I teach for another 15, 20, 30 minutes and open up to questions. But this program is more like a study group. What I do is I share with you these chapters of the book. Right now we're in volume 3, chapters 61 through chapters 70. That's this week, and there's students all over the world that are studying these. And these chapters, they're actually kind of short. You can see this is the words of the Buddha. It's only one page. This is the words of the Buddha from the original Pali Canon, the original source text of the Buddha. And this reference here goes back to the original source teaching, so you can see and have confidence that this is what the Buddha taught. And then you have words from me that are helping you to be able to further understand what the Buddha taught. His teachings are very clear, very concise, and very precise, but it helps to have a dedicated teacher and a dedicated practitioner who's guiding you through. You're doing the work. It's your own independent journey to enlightenment, but you're doing the work to be able to learn and practice, because nothing in the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. His teachings aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. That's not what his teachings are about. Is you're learning now, you're investigating and examining his teachings. You're then reflecting on those teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you're practicing his teachings, integrating them into your life and starting to practice the teachings through training your mind and making wiser and wiser decisions. And because you're learning now, you're reflecting now, and you're practicing now, you see the results now in this life. This is why you can move to this enlightened mental state. So as I mentioned, it's not about believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. It's about training your mind now in the present moment and experiencing the results now. So that as you're training your mind with these teachings, you'll see how your relationships improve. You'll see how your personal, professional relationships start to blossom. You'll notice situations that you were once in, that you were angry or frustrated or agitated. As you're training your mind in this way with the teachings of the Buddha, you won't be experiencing those things anymore. You'll notice that, wow, I used to get so angry when this used to happen, and now I'm quite peaceful. This is nice. You'll appreciate having trained your mind. So what we do on this Saturday class is I have students volunteer to read the chapter from the words of the Buddha, either here at the temple or those of you guys online. You can volunteer to read this particular chapter, this one little section right here, this one page. After somebody reads it, I will share about 5 minutes, 10 minutes worth of teachings on that particular chapter. And then I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Whether you're here at the temple or you're online, you can ask questions. So if you would like to volunteer to read, all you need to do is raise your hand and come get a microphone here. We have microphones in the white bowl. If you get a microphone and you press the button, there's going to be lights that come on. And you just hold it up to your chin, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you talk here at the temple, they wouldn't be able to hear you online unless you had a microphone. And then for those of you guys online, if you'd like to volunteer to read in Zoom, you can just electronically raise your hand. I'll be able to see that, and then you can open up your microphone, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream. And then as you guys would like to ask questions, you can do the same thing either in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. You can ask questions through putting that into the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or here at the temple, you can just get a microphone and then ask your question. I'll be able to hear you here. They'll be able to hear you online. I'll answer your question for you. It looks like we have Pat that's volunteering for this first chapter. I'll be with you in a second, Pat. What I'm going to do is just give you guys a little bit of a summary of these first 3 chapters that we're going to be reading. We're going to be reading a chapter titled Preservation of Truth, Discovery of Truth, and Final Arrival at Truth. There's 2 things that you can think about when you're studying the teachings of the Buddha and he's talking about truth. There's 2 things that you need to understand. The first one is he guides you in other parts of his teachings, not in these teachings that we're going to see here, but in other parts of his teachings, he guides you to speak the truth. And he suggests to you that this would be the best way for you to make decisions in your life is to always speak the truth, that you don't speak falsehoods. When we're lying, if you've ever done lying, which we all have as children, I'm sure we all lied at different times, there's something your mind wants. And if you tell the truth, you won't get what you want. So we tend to lie in order to get what we want. But the problem with lying is that people are going to discover those lies. They're going to figure it out that you've lied. And then they're not going to see you as someone who's being trustworthy and dependable, someone who's reliable. So now your personal, professional relationships really struggle because people discover your lies. The other things that we do when we lie is, if you've done a lot of lying, then you remember probably lying to one person about one thing, another person about something else, another person about something else. And you got to keep all these lies straight in your mind. And it's very challenging, because now how could you ever get to a peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment if you're trying to figure out what you said to one person versus another versus another? So one of the first things the Buddha teaches about the truth is that it's wise to always speak the truth. Because if you always speak the truth, you have nothing to worry about. You just look inside, you figure out what the truth is, you understand the truth because you know what you've been experiencing in life and what your direct experiences have been like, and you just speak about those things. Nothing to worry about. You can be at ease and you can be calm because you've only ever spoken the truth. So this is the first aspect of the truth that the Buddha talks about, always speaking the truth. What you're going to see here is something even beyond that. That what the Buddha is guiding you to be able to do is to discover the truth. So he's going to talk about preserving the truth, discovering the truth, and final arrival at the truth. When he's talking about the truth, what he's describing is getting to truth or wisdom about the natural laws of existence, because there's certain things that your mind doesn't understand about the world right now. Whether you've been in the world for 18, 20 years or 30 years or 40 or 50 or 60 or 80 years, however many years you've been in the world, if your mind still experiences anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings, there are certain things about the world that you don't yet understand. This is the mind that is in the unenlightened state, that your mind hasn't evolved. It hasn't moved to this higher consciousness where your mind can be peaceful and joyful all the time. So if you're experiencing these discontent feelings, there are certain things that your mind's lacking wisdom about. Not because you're a bad person, not because you've done anything wrong necessarily, because every being that's ever been born is unenlightened. And then this journey in life is to cultivate wisdom or understanding the truth about the natural laws around you so that you can awaken your mind to this enlightened mental state. So everything the Buddha is guiding you to do on the path to enlightenment is to cultivate wisdom or get to the truth and understanding true reality. That if you just believe something in your life, then you're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. And now you don't know whether it's true or false. You're just believing it. And your mind can easily waver back and forth. I don't know if you guys know this analogy. Some of us grew up with Santa Claus, right? If you grew up with Santa Claus or the idea of Santa Claus, you know that as a little child, you were so excited that Santa Claus was going to come and visit you and deliver presents to you. And you were so excited. But maybe somewhere around 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 years old, you found out that Santa Claus didn't exist. And oh my goodness, people are really upset, right? I know I was. I was 8 years old. I found out Santa Claus doesn't exist. I was crying. I was upset. I was angry at my parents, how they lied to me all these years, thinking Santa Claus existed and he didn't exist, right? My mind was all shaken up because I was functioning on belief, right? When you believe something, you don't know what's true or false. You're going to be shaken up when you find out that your beliefs are untrue. But when you know the truth, your mind is steady, it's stable, it's unshakable. Because right now, I know the truth that Santa Claus doesn't exist. You know the truth too. Santa Claus does not exist, right? It doesn't matter how many big men you see in red suits. Doesn't matter how many Christmas carols you hear. Doesn't matter how many presents you see under a tree. You know that Santa Claus didn't put them there. And no matter what somebody says to you, they could never convince you that Santa Claus exists because your mind is unshakable. You know the truth about this topic. And that's essentially what you need to get to on every other topic that the Buddha taught. You need to be able to learn his teachings, examine them, and investigate them. Then you reflect on them to independently verify, are they true or are they false? Then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your life. And now when you're training your mind and practicing his teachings, you'll come to truth, you'll come to wisdom, and you'll know these natural laws inside and out. And now your mind can be at ease as you navigate the world because now you're making wise decisions and your mind can be completely peaceful and joyful. Getting to enlightenment takes multiple years. It's a multiple year journey. And when we talk about awakening to enlightenment, it's not sudden or instantaneous. this. This is one of the biggest myths or misunderstandings about the life story of the Buddha. Some people think that he sat under a tree, he meditated, and he instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. You can see it in his own words, and you know this to be true because anything you've ever done in life has been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Whether it's learning to read and write English or some job or occupation that you have, it's been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And this is where your mind cultivates wisdom, and now you can make wiser decisions in the world that are producing more and more wholesome outcomes for you. So when you're learning the teachings of the Buddha from me or from anyone else, anything that you're seeing in the world, it's important that you don't believe anything, because belief isn't going to lead you to the truth. It's not going to lead you to wisdom to be able to then navigate the world through this wisdom. When you have beliefs, your mind can easily be shaken up. So what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is you're cultivating wisdom about these natural laws. And when you bring in this wisdom, what you're going to find is that it's going to conflict with certain beliefs that you currently have. Because right now, for example, you might firmly believe that other people are causing you to be angry. You might firmly believe that. You might think that other people are causing you to be annoyed and irritated and frustrated. But if you come this afternoon and you learn the Four Noble Truths with me, you're going to be able to see in a way that you can independently verify that this is not true, that other people aren't causing you to be angry or frustrated. It's your own mind that's actually causing this. And this can be very empowering, because now when you see the truth and you have wisdom, you can actually take action to fix it. But if you don't know the truth, if you're blinded, if you're in the darkness, if your mind is sleeping and you're lacking wisdom, then you can't actually take action to fix what it is that the Buddha is describing to you. So here, what he's going to describe to you in 3 different discourses is preservation of truth, of how to preserve the truth, to know that it's the truth, how to discover the truth, and then how to come to final arrival at the truth. And what he's mainly talking about here is he's mainly talking about the truth of the natural laws of existence and getting to wisdom. So Pat, since you're volunteering to read, if you would like to take this first one, you guys will see how this goes. And then if you guys would like to volunteer here, or other people on Zoom, you guys can volunteer in the future chapters. So go ahead, Pat.
Chapter 61, the preservation of truth. But, Master Gotama, in what way is there the preservation of truth? How does one preserve truth? We ask Master Gotama about the preservation of truth. If a person has confidence, Ravaja, he preserves truth when he says, "My confidence is thus," but he does not yet come to the definite conclusion. Only this is true. Anything else is wrong. If a person approves of something, Ravaja, he preserves truth when he says, "My approval of something is thus," but he does not yet come to the definite conclusion. Only this is true. Anything else is wrong. If he receives an oral tradition, Ravaja, he preserves truth when he says, "My receiving of the oral tradition is thus," but he does not yet come to the definite conclusion. Only this is true. Anything else is wrong. If he reaches a conclusion based on reasoned reflection, Ravaja, he preserves truth when he says, "My reaching of a conclusion based on reasoned reflection is thus," but he does not yet come to the definite conclusion. Only this is true. Anything else is wrong. If he gains a reflective understanding of a view, he preserves truth when he says, "My reflective understanding of a view is thus," but he does not yet come to the definite conclusion. Only this is true. Anything else is wrong. In this way, too, Ravaja, there is the preservation of truth. In this way, he preserves truth. In this way, we describe the preservation of truth. But as yet, there is no discovery of truth.
Okay, thank you, Pat. So what the Buddha is describing here for you is that the way you preserve truth is you basically speak through your own experience. That's what he's describing here. That if you've experienced a particular thing, you can speak about it through your own experience. So say you go somewhere and you experience something, right? And now, like, say, for example, this morning on my way into the temple, I was coming down the street and I noticed there was flooding everywhere. And I needed to then go from that street to another street. And then I went to another street. And then finally I was able to get into the temple without getting all wet. So from my experience, the streets are flooded on the eastern side of the river. They're also flooded on the western side too. But to the east of Chiang Mai, from my experience, the streets are flooded. Okay. And I'm speaking from my experience, right? Well, let's just say 1 o'clock rolls around and you make your way towards the eastern side of Chiang Mai and the water has receded and you're like, whoa, David said the streets are flooded, but the streets aren't actually flooded. And you can see that the streets flooded and you might think that David lied. Well, David didn't lie. David preserved the truth. I said, from my experience, right? From my experience, the streets are flooded based on my experience at 7 a.m. this morning. But now at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, when you went there, the water had receded, right? So the way you preserve truth, whether it's in your work environment or your personal relationships, you speak from your own experience. You can preface things by saying, from my experience, or from my opinion, or based on my thoughts, or based on what I've experienced in life, or based on what I know about this situation here. And you're now sharing a particular statement. That's what the Buddha is saying, that you can preserve truth this way, that you can basically speak from your own preference and your own experience, where what he's saying is this person hasn't come to the definitive conclusion of only this is true, anything else is wrong. So if you speak in absolutes, so for example, if I said the streets are flooded in the east part of Thailand, in the eastern part of Chiang Mai, the streets are flooded. This is speaking in an absolute. This is saying they are absolutely flooded, right? But I don't know that because I'm not there right now. I was there at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., but I'm not there now. So I can't speak in absolutes. So the way you preserve the truth is you speak in a way that prefaces it with something based on your experience. And you can do this in your professional life, in your personal life, and this will help you preserve truth. Because if anybody ever comes back to you and says, hey, you lied, this isn't actually true. No, you didn't lie. You said, based on my experience, based on what I know about this situation, here's what I experienced. And now you have preserved the truth, is what the Buddha is explaining here. So he's saying in this situation, you haven't come to a final conclusion about a particular thing yet. And this is how you can preserve the truth, is preface it. But now the next chapter, he's going to go into how do you discover the truth and know what the truth is so that you can actually get to a definitive conclusion. Here he's describing if you haven't come to a definitive conclusion, how can you speak in a way that will preserve the truth so people don't consider what you're sharing to be lies? So do you guys have any questions on this particular chapter? Remember, you can put those into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or here at the temple, you can ask questions using the microphones. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir. If you could get a microphone here. We've got plenty. You can keep them with you. And then maybe someone around you might need one at some point as well. You guys can share them.
Hello?
Yep, there you go.
When I say I believe in molecules and atoms, is it the same kind of belief as our children believe in Santa Claus?
Yeah, a better way to do it is to be able to know with 100% certainty that molecules and atoms exist. You've been able to research it. You've been able to see it for yourself. And rather than say, I believe this, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. This way you can know with 100% certainty of something that exists. So like when the Buddha is talking, when I'm teaching you here, I can speak with 100% certainty. I can look you in the eyes with 100% confidence because I know what I'm sharing with you is 100% the truth. A student might not know that it's the truth yet because they haven't done the work to be able to independently verify what I'm sharing, but I can know it's the truth. And then that way you can have confidence when you speak. Whereas if you just speak from belief, the mind doesn't know what's true or false. And even if you know that it's true, but maybe sometimes people speak in ways that doesn't necessarily represent the truth fully. Sometimes we say, oh, I believe that, or I believe this, or I believe that, when in reality, you know it with 100% certainty. So if you know that atoms and molecules exist 100%, just speak the truth. Say, yes, atoms and molecules exist. Based on my experience, I verified it, and here it is. Here's how I know that it's true. You don't have to believe it because you know that it's true. And this will give you confidence when you speak with people.
How about someone believe in Jesus that they kind of have 100% confidence, right?
There's some people that can have 100% confidence in this. Like for me, I have 100% confidence that Jesus existed. I don't have any beliefs at all, including a belief in Jesus. I know 100% that this being existed, and I've been able to independently verify that on my own. So people may have beliefs at this particular time in the unenlightened state, but by the time you get to enlightenment, you won't have any beliefs. You'll have already independently verified every single aspect of the natural laws of existence. And now with that independent verification, you'll be able to speak with full confidence about what it is that you understand about the world. But in the unenlightened state, yes, you're going to have certain beliefs, but what you're doing is you're learning, you're reflecting, and you're practicing to be able to discover the truth, get to wisdom, and then now you won't have beliefs because you're bringing in wisdom, and that wisdom is now going to move your beliefs out of your mind. So you're not going to replace your current beliefs with new beliefs. That's not what the Buddha is doing for you. What he's doing for you is helping you see with wisdom the truth of the world. And now when you bring that wisdom in, and you're going to see that it conflicts with certain beliefs that you've had all your life, you can get rid of those beliefs, and then you can know the truth. So like, for example, for a long time, I believed that other people made me angry. Other people made me upset or frustrated. But I've been able to independently verify and see with 100% certainty that that's not true. And I know with 100% certainty that the mind is causing its own discontentedness. And that's what I'm going to explain this afternoon, so you can see the truth for yourself in a way that you can independently verify. So whether it's like the Jesus or the Buddha or God or any of these other things, even the Buddha taught the 5 realms of existence. He taught hell, animal world, afflicted spirits, the human world, heavenly world. He taught the cycle of rebirth, that beings are constantly being reborn over and over and over again. You can actually independently verify all these things. You might not have the wisdom of how to do that right now, but if you study with someone like me that can guide you and can show you how to independently verify these things, you can actually independently verify them, and then you'll know with 100% certainty that these things are true.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay, let me see if we have any other questions anywhere. All right, so I'm not seeing any other questions. Oh, yes, sir. You have a question? Yep.
Hi there. Yep. Hi, David. Mm-hmm. Welcome back. I was in your class on Wednesday. It's good to see you in person. I like his questions, and he reminded me of something. You mentioned about you have to verify the truth by yourself. Right? You see it or you observe it by yourself. But then my question is, like, I see the stars, I see the Mars and Jupiters, they are there on the sky. And it's impossible that for me to travel to Jupiter in my life, I believe. Chances are very low. But I can use telescope, binoculars to observe these planets. But then it comes to, how do I know the images I see through binoculars or telescope are true? Then I have to verify the truth of binoculars. And then if you break down the logic, like, you have to verify every detail, everything in your life. That will be a disaster for me to think in this way.
It depends how far you would like to take it, right? Like, so there's the middle way, right? So if I look through a telescope and I see a planet and it's labeled Jupiter, and astrologers are saying, hey, this is the path that this planet's going to take based on what we know about the way that it moves in the world, and we refer to this planet as Jupiter. I can have that confidence. I can look at the telescope, I can see it. I don't have to actually go visit that planet in order to consider it to be Jupiter, right? Just like the sun. You know, we can see the sun, we can feel the sun, we experience the sun. I don't have to go to the sun and step on the sun in order to verify that it exists. I can see it with my own eyes. So if you live in the middle way, that the Buddha taught, you don't have to go to the excruciating level of detail that you're describing that you think will cause your mind to maybe malfunction or, maybe have a lot of difficulties. You can decide to what level of detail you would like to exactly verify any particular thing. With the teachings of the Buddha, I went into all the detail because this is what I do. Day in and day out, I'm helping students to understand the path to enlightenment. So I've gone into excruciating detail to independently verify all the different aspects of the teachings of the Buddha. When it comes to astrology and things like this, I took an astrology class in college and I learned a little bit about it, but I don't need to go to excruciating detail about that because that's not my specialty. That's not what I'm involved in. So you've got to decide for yourself to what level of detail are you going to explore any particular topic. So when I speak about the teachings of the Buddha, I can speak with 100% confidence. When I speak about astrology, it's like, yeah, here's what I kind of learned in college. But if you're interested in really knowing, you might decide to go speak with someone who knows much more because I don't specialize in that particular thing. So you've got to decide for yourself, what topics are you going to specialize in and really investigate to a high degree of detail, and which things you're not, because that's not an interest that you have.
Okay, I think I get it. So the advice from you is like I should put a limitation before my sentence, saying this is what I learned about astrology. Or this is what I read from the book.
Exactly.
In that way, I preserve the truth. Yeah.
Exactly, because you can't know everything about everything. It's just not possible. There's nobody in the world that can do that, because you're going to have certain topics that you really understand really well, and then there's going to be topics that you maybe just have cursory knowledge about, and you don't really investigate it. And then you know what your specialties are. So when someone asks you a question, you can answer that with full confidence. But when you don't know, you can also say, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but there's probably someone in the world that could answer that for you.
Okay, I think I get it. A small question. What does Bharadvaja mean?
This is the name of the student of the Buddha. There was multiple students that he had, but he's just talking to this particular student, and that's his name.
Okay, get it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. All right, great questions. So let's move to the next chapter. Is there someone who would like to read this one? This is 62, Discovery of the Truth. Someone would like to read this? This is a great time to practice your English. Rachel would like to read. She'd like to practice her English. For those of you guys that are, maybe English is not your first language, this is a great way to practice that, kind of get help with that. And also get over any shyness. If you feel shy, if you put your mind in that situation, you'll actually get more and more comfortable with it.
The discovery of truth. But in what way, Master Gotama, is there the discovery of truth? In what way does one discover truth? We ask Master Gotama about the discovery of truth. Here, Bharajava, a monk may be living in dependence on some village or town. Then a householder or householder's son goes to him and investigates him in regard to 3 kinds of states. In regard to states based on craving, greed. In regard to states based on anger, hatred. In regard to states based on ignorance, delusion.
Can I pause you for a second there, Rachel? What the Buddha is talking about here is this is the high-level way to refer to the pollutions in the mind. So what he's saying is one of the ways to get to the discovery of truth is go find somebody, like a teacher, that you can investigate and determine whether or not they have craving, anger, and ignorance in their mind. Is their mind still polluted? Or are they enlightened? That's what the Buddha is guiding you towards. So sorry about that, Rachel. Go ahead.
Are there in this Venerable One any states based on craving, greed, such that, with his mind obsessed by those states, while not knowing he might say, I know, or while not seeing he might say, I see, or he might urge others to act in a way that would lead to their harm and discontentedness for a long time? As he investigates him, he comes to know. There are no such states based on craving, greed in this Venerable One. The bodily behavior and the verbal behavior of this Venerable One are not those of one affected by craving, greed. And the teachings that this Venerable One teaches are profound, hard to see and hard to understand, peaceful and superb, unattainable by mere reasoning, subtle, to be experienced by the wise. These teachings cannot easily be taught by one affected by craving greed. When he has investigated him and has seen that he is purified from states based on craving greed, he next investigates him in regard to states based on anger, hate. Are there in this Venerable One any states based on anger, hate, such that, with his mind obsessed by those states, while not knowing he might say, I know, or while not seeing he might say, I see, or he might urge others to act in a way that would lead to their harm and discontentedness for a long time? As he investigates him, he comes to know there are no such states based on anger, hate in this Venerable One. The bodily behavior and the verbal behavior of this Venerable One are not those of one affected by anger, hate. And the teachings that this Venerable One teaches are profound, hard to see and hard to understand, peaceful and superb, unattainable by mere reasoning, subtle, to be experienced by the wise. These teachings cannot easily be taught by one affected by anger and hate. When he has investigated him and has seen that he is purified from states based on anger, hate, he next investigates him in regard to states based on ignorance and delusion. Are there in this Venerable One any states based on ignorance, delusion, such that, with his mind obsessed by those states, while not knowing he might say, I know, or while not seeing he might say, I see, or he might urge others to act in a way that would lead to their harm and discontentedness for a long time? As he investigates him, he comes to know there are no such states based on ignorance and delusion in this Venerable One. The bodily behavior and the verbal behavior of this Venerable One are not those of one affected by ignorance and delusion. And the teachings that this Venerable One teaches are profound, hard to see and hard to understand, peaceful and superb, unattainable by mere reasoning, subtle, to be experienced by the wise. These teachings cannot easily be taught by one affected by ignorance and delusion. When he has investigated him and has seen that he is purified from states based on ignorance and delusion, then he places confidence in him, filled with confidence. He visits him and pays respects to him. Having paid respect to him, he gives ear when he gives ear. He hears the teachings, having heard the teachings. He memorizes them and examines the meaning of the teachings he has memorized when he examines their meaning. He gains a reflective understanding of those teachings. When he has gained a reflective understanding of those teachings, enthusiasm springs up. When enthusiasm has sprung up, he applies his will. Having applied his will, he investigates thoroughly. Having investigated thoroughly, he applies effort and energy through purposeful striving. Determined to apply effort and energy through striving, he realizes the ultimate truth and sees it by penetrating it with wisdom. In this way, Bharajava, there is the discovery of truth. In this way, one discovers the truth. In this way, we describe the discovery of truth. But as yet, there is no final arrival at truth.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So what the Buddha is describing here is the way to discover truth is get to the point where you're learning with a teacher who is enlightened, or essentially very close to it. Because a teacher who's enlightened will understand the truth. They'll understand the wisdom that it takes to be able to get to that mental state because they've done it for themselves. So therefore they can guide you to that same mental state as well. It's kind of like if you were interested in learning how to drive a car, who would you be interested in learning from? Someone who has 20 years of experience driving a car and actually has been maybe teaching for 5 or 10 years, or someone who's never driven a car ever in their life? Right? You probably wouldn't be interested in learning how to drive a car from that person. So if you can find a teacher who's either enlightened or very close to it, this individual will be able to guide you to enlightenment. So here, the first thing the Buddha is describing is that in order to discover truth, you're going to need to go find an individual who you can investigate of whether they have craving, anger, and ignorance. These are referred to as the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. This is a high-level description of the 10 individual problems that the Buddha discovered in the mind. I'll just give you a summary of these. What craving, desire is, this is also described as attachment or expectations or wants. This is where the mind is longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection, wanting things to be fulfilling. The mind has this unquenchable thirst, thinking that something external is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind might chase and chase and chase. You might think that it's more money that's going to make you happy, so you chase after that. Or you might think it's a new boyfriend or girlfriend, so you might chase after that. Or it might be a new house or a new car, so you might chase after that for a period of time, basing your inner feelings on this particular thing. If you get this new job, you'll be so excited. But if you don't get it, you'll be sad or frustrated or agitated. Or if you get more money, you'll be so happy and you'll be so excited. But if you don't get it, you'll be sad and you'll be frustrated. This is all because of craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing, yearning, and it's getting pleasant feelings when you get what you want, like happiness, excitement, elation. But when you don't get what you want, the mind then moves to this anger or this hatred or this ill will, this frustration, this agitation, this annoyance. And this is where you can become very unskillful through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. You can become bitter and harsh and hostile towards others. You can even push people away, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. Because in the unenlightened state, the mind doesn't realize what's causing those painful feelings is your cravings. That when you get what you want, you're happy, but when you don't get what you want, you get sad or angry or frustrated. And the mind, with its lack of wisdom, which is the ignorance or the delusion, it thinks that somebody else is causing you to be angry. So when you experience anger and frustration, you might push people away. This is called aversion. I'm sure you've pushed away friends or family members thinking that that's going to solve your problems in life. But you can see that it didn't solve your problems because it's only a matter of time before you become angry or upset or agitated about something else. If this was the real cause of your problem, when you push that person out of your life, you'd be peaceful for the rest of your life. But you can see that's not true. Or the second thing the unenlightened mind will do with its lack of wisdom is it'll be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people. Through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. The mind's thinking, if I can just get my cravings fulfilled, if I can just get things my way, and I can kind of fear this other person to do things my way, then life will be perfect. And this is kind of like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to convince it to do things your way. So this is something that you've experienced too, where maybe you've been bitter and harsh and hostile towards other people. And you can see this doesn't work because people are only going to do those things that you want them to do as long as you're being bitter and harsh and hostile. But then they're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you too. And then also in some situations, you might have been so bitter and so hostile that they chose to leave out of your life and they weren't interested in being around you anymore because of the bitterness and the hostility. The third thing that someone will do when they lack wisdom about what's really causing the anger is you might put your expectations on someone. You might try to control someone to do things your way. This is something that the mind does, is that you try to get someone to fulfill your cravings. You might have been in arguments where you've been adamantly advocating for somebody to do things your way, that you are making me angry. And if you keep doing that thing, I'm going to keep getting angry. So what the mind does is it tries to convince other people through putting expectations on people to do things your way. And this isn't actually going to work. You're never going to get to peace this way, because as long as you're pushing people away, you're being bitter, harsh, and hostile, you're putting your expectations on people, you can't live with all beings harmoniously. So this is what happens when the anger arises. These three things can occur. And as I mentioned, where all this is coming from is the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom, the misunderstanding, the confusion, that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand in the unenlightened state. It doesn't understand the natural laws of existence. So these are the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots. And this is going to keep the mind trapped in this unenlightened state where it's just experiencing these discontent feelings over and over and over again. So in order for you to get to the discovery of truth of what the natural laws of existence are so that you can get to enlightenment, the Buddha is saying you're going to need to find a teacher who is free of craving. You're going to need to look at this individual. Do they say, I know, when they really don't know? Or do they say, I see, when I really don't see? Right? Because if somebody is afraid to say, I don't know, this is because there's ego in the mind. So if you ask the teacher a question and they're not willing to just say, I don't know, then this person could potentially have ego in their mind. And this isn't an individual who's going to be enlightened. So the Buddha is describing to you to look for somebody that doesn't have craving, desire, attachment, that you look at their bodily behavior, you look at their verbal behavior, because with craving, desire, attachment, someone's going to be very harsh and very aggressive and very hostile. They're going to be go, 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 go. They're going to be rapidly moving through the world, right? So when there's craving in the mind can't think clear. It can't be focused. It can't be concentrated. But for someone who doesn't have craving in their mind, they're going to be able to speak very clear, very concise, and very precise. They're going to be patient. Where if someone has craving in the mind, they're going to have impatience. You might notice that about yourself. Sometimes you're not patient in certain situations. This is because of the craving. The mind wants to do something else. It can't just be patient. So again, you're not a bad person. It's just that the mind is unenlightened. But if you're looking for someone to help you get to enlightenment so you can discover the truth, you would like to look for someone who doesn't have craving. Because as the Buddha says here, is that it would be very challenging to be able to teach these teachings if there was craving in your own mind. As a teacher, if you were craving for things to be a certain way, meaning you were longing and yearning and expecting things to be a certain way, when things aren't that way, you would be upset. You would be angry as a teacher. So I'll give you an example. There was a certain amount of students that were here at the temple when we first started. And now you see people have gotten up and left. And sometimes people are like, oh, that's so disrespectful to leave. No, that's not disrespectful to leave. If someone's got to leave, you get up and leave. Maybe you would like to go get some food. Maybe you're not comfortable sitting. Maybe the temperature isn't right. Maybe you got a phone call. Maybe your mom's been in a car accident and you've got to go help your mom at the hospital, right? So if I had a craving, if I wanted and expected everybody who comes to stay the entire time, when people get up and leave, I'd be upset. I'd be frustrated. I'd be annoyed, right? But when you don't have a craving and you understand this is just impermanence, that people are going to be coming and going in and out of your class, this is normal. Right? But if I had a craving for everybody to stay, I'd be upset when people got up and left. So it would be very hard to teach if you had craving, desire, attachment. That's what the Buddha is explaining to you. Not just this particular craving, desire, attachment, but any craving, desire, attachment, right? So for example, when I was in Mexico, some of you guys know I just got back from Mexico. I was gone for 3 weeks and I was teaching in different classrooms in Mexico. I taught 2 different courses while I was there. The setup was very different, right? There was no microphone. The projectors weren't working as well. Sometimes there was no air conditioning in the places that we were teaching. It was just fans, right? And things like this. If I had craving for the classrooms in Mexico to be just as comfortable as this one, I would be discontent when I was in Mexico. Like, how can I teach? There's no air conditioning. Oh my goodness, right? So you can train your mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. But as a teacher, if you have craving, desire, attachment, you'd find it very difficult to teach. And therefore, the students would have a very hard time to learn. So the Buddha is guiding you to find a teacher that doesn't have craving, desire, attachment in their mind. And then the same thing, he says, somebody that had anger in your mind, it would be very difficult for that person to teach these teachings. Because if you're trying to learn how to eliminate your anger, but yet the teacher who's teaching has anger in their mind, they wouldn't be able to guide you to eliminate anger. If they haven't done it for themselves, how would they be able to help you to do it, right? In order to guide somebody else to the elimination of anger, you would need to know how to do it. It's kind of like if I have a hammer and I know how to hit nails and I know how to drive nails into the wood with a hammer, I could teach you how to use a hammer because I know how to do it myself. But if I've never hit nails with a hammer and I don't know how to use a hammer, I wouldn't be able to teach you how to do that. So it's the same thing here, that if somebody hasn't eliminated their anger, they would find it very difficult to be able to teach you how to do so. So the Buddha is guiding you that if you're interested in discovering the truth about these natural laws, is to find a teacher who's eliminated anger, that you won't see any anger, bitterness, hostility. If you see even the slightest annoyance or frustration or agitation in the mind of a teacher, their mind is not yet enlightened. So therefore, they wouldn't be able to guide you to enlightenment. Then lastly, he talks about investigating this person that they have eliminated ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. Ignorance is kind of a derogatory way to refer to this. And this is a translation, right? There's people that are translating from the words of the Buddha into English. I would suggest that the Buddha didn't use the word ignorance. Instead, I would use the phrase unknowing of true reality or confusion or misunderstanding, because that's what the mind's experiencing, is that it misunderstands. It has confusion, it has a lack of wisdom, or this unknowing of true reality. Because ignorance is like a derogatory word, a degrading word, and a Buddha, an enlightened being, doesn't refer to people in derogatory and degrading ways. But what he's talking about here is this lack of wisdom. That if an individual has a lack of wisdom, they wouldn't be able to guide you to be able to understand how to get to wisdom, right? Because they have a lack of wisdom themselves. So the Buddha is saying, okay, investigate a teacher in these three areas. Do they have craving? Do they have anger? And do they have ignorance? And if the answer is no, they're purified from those states, then you can place your confidence in that person. Now here he's using the pronoun him, but it could easily be a female too, who's a teacher, right? There could easily be a female teacher, but he's referring to this person as a him. Now with the filled of confidence in that person, that you can have confidence that they're enlightened, now you visit that person and you pay respect to that person, right? Because anybody who's sharing these teachings should be doing so without any expectation of anything in return from you. That's why you don't see any prices on our classes or our courses or even our books and our resources. Everything's available to you at no cost, even personal guidance. If you'd like to sit down with me and talk, either here in Chiang Mai or when you go back to your country, if you'd like to meet online, you can meet with me as many times as you want privately, one-on-one. There's no cost. Right? Because a teacher who's really sharing these teachings shouldn't be actually charging their students, because you need to be able to learn the teachings and have access to them. As soon as there's a price tag on them, you wouldn't be able to necessarily get access to them. So if these courses that I teach in a 5-day course, if it was $1,000 a week, there's only a certain number of people that could afford that. But someone who has love and kindness and compassion for the world and would like to see everybody get to this enlightened mental state, they should be willing to share the teachings at no cost so that people can then get access to them. So when you go to visit a teacher who's willingly sharing with you without any expectation of anything in return, it's wise to show respect to that person, because now you can get the help that you need to be able to learn and develop on the path. So having paid respect to this person, then you give ear, meaning you listen, have eager ears to listen to the teachings that the individual is sharing. And then having given ear, you hear the teachings. You start learning about the teachings of the Buddha, the path to enlightenment. And then having heard those teachings, you start memorizing them. You start committing them to your memory, because you're going to need to practice them in day-to-day life. And we have books and videos and podcasts to be able to do that, but you can learn in person too. Then you examine the meaning of those teachings you've memorized. Then you gain this reflective understanding of those teachings. This is where you don't believe the teachings. You reflect on those teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. Then as you're doing that, you're going to notice this enthusiasm springs up in the mind, because you're going to notice that these teachings are true. If you study these teachings in the way that I share starting this afternoon, if you'd like to learn the very beginning of the path, you'll be able to independently verify and see for yourself, oh my goodness, you figured out why it is that your mind experiences anger. You'll start having this enthusiasm, this joy, this ambition that comes up in the mind, like, wow, this is actually true. The Buddha's teachings are true. Then when that enthusiasm is springing up in your mind, you start applying your will, meaning your intention, your effort, your energy to practice those teachings. You apply your will so that you can now move those teachings into your day-to-day life and train your mind. Then you investigate them more thoroughly, investigating those teachings and applying your effort and energy to strive to develop the life practice so that you can ultimately realize the truth about the natural laws. Because when you're learning them intellectually, okay, you learned them. You reflect on them to independently verify them. Okay, you've independently verified them. But then once you move them into your practice through your energy and effort and your intention, and you start practicing the teachings of the Buddha, this is where you can see with 100% certainty, oh yeah, this is true. This is the true wisdom. And that's how you discover the truth. So this teaching that I'm going to share this afternoon about the Four Noble Truths, you'll be able to intellectually learn it. this afternoon. You'll be able to reflect on it to independently verify it. And then when you're practicing it, that's when you'll know the truth. You'll know with 100% certainty exactly what's causing your own discontent feelings in your mind. And you will have discovered the truth of what's causing these feelings. And it's going to crush your belief. And that's actually really good, because then you can actually have the wisdom to solve these problems and eliminate them from the mind. So any questions on this particular chapter? Anything you guys would like to ask? Yes, ma'am. We have microphones right here. You guys are welcome to keep them with you as you take them to the back. For those of you guys online, you can ask questions by putting it into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom if you'd like.
Hello. Thank you, Master David. Thank you for the very detailed explanation of the preservation and discovery of truth. And I find it's very important for us to have the ability to discover truth in the world filled with fake news, especially with the coming influences of the artificial intelligence. For example, before I came to Chiang Mai, I checked a lot of weather forecast from the official. And also I saw a lot of feedbacks from the local tourists who came a bit earlier than me. And I feel really confused about how the flood and the thunderstorms going on here. And I find the truth is really versatile and different among the crowd. So I decided to come here and see with my eyes. So I'm very curious. The first question is, does the truth really exist in one and only way about certain things? If it's really so different and versatile and it's dynamic and changing all the time, how can we grasp it and know which one is the real truth? Because as an individual, we cannot go to everywhere in every time. You know, we can only be at one spot and one time only, but we need information from others. And we have so many channels to get information. It's so the feeling of truth might differ from one individual to another, especially, for example, in this classroom, we came from different cultural backgrounds with different upbringings. So we definitely have different opinions about certain things, so that this means that the human beings always have different ideas and different opinions about one truth. And does this mean that the conflicts are inevitable, like the wars between human beings are inevitable? Thank you.
Sure. So we're talking about two different things here. The first thing is like the floods. Is it flooding or not? You know, what is the truth? That's the first part that I was talking about, how we can preserve the truth by saying, based on my experience, there's flooding on the eastern part of Chiang Mai. That's preserving the truth about a day-to-day situation. And that day-to-day situation is going to be constantly changing due to what we call the universal truth of impermanence. This is one of the first things that you learn on the path to enlightenment, is that things in the world are constantly changing. There's not this steady fixed state. Like the weather is constantly changing, your relationships are constantly changing, your bank account's constantly changing, this whole human body is constantly changing. Things are constantly changing. And this is so important to understand, because what the mind does in the unenlightened state is it craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent, but you live in an impermanent world. So that craving, that desire, the attachment, you want your bank account balance to be this. And when it's this, you're happy, and it craves for it to be this. But when it goes here, you're sad or frustrated or agitated, right? Or maybe there's the weather. You might want the weather to be sunny all the time. But then when it rains, the mind gets angry or sad because it's craving permanence. So these kinds of things in the world are constantly changing. And therefore, the day-to-day situation is going to change, and you need to be able to get to the truth at any particular situation before you make a decision. Should I drive down that road or not? I need to know what's the status of that road, and now I'm going to make a decision of what I should do. So that's one type of truth. But what the Buddha is guiding you here, and what he's talking about, is the truth of these natural laws of existence. These natural laws that the Buddha taught that it takes in order to get to enlightenment and understanding the world around you, they actually don't change. They're what's called an unconditioned object. They don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. This is why the teachings of the Buddha are just as applicable today as they were 2,500 years ago. 2,500 years ago, he describes these natural laws, and because these natural laws haven't changed, today we can look at these same teachings and we can understand what he taught, and then we can independently verify it, and then we can practice it and see the truth. So this particular truth, that's what we're talking about. That's what you can get to. That's what you get to wisdom. It doesn't matter what culture we're from. It doesn't matter what country we're from. These natural laws actually function exactly the same all throughout the world, and we can get to that truth. This other truth over here, this thing is constantly changing, whether it's sunny or raining or what have you, that's constantly changing. We can only know at one particular point in time what is the truth in that given situation. But these natural laws, we can know those with 100% certainty, and that's where the Buddha is guiding you how to discover this truth about these natural laws, is to find a teacher who's enlightened, because they're going to be able to describe those natural laws to you in a way that you can then independently verify them and get to the truth yourself. Mm-hmm. Sir, you have a question? Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
What is the boundary of craving? It's like the crave of truth. Is that also craving?
Did you say what is the boundary of craving?
Yeah.
So
I want to learn the truth. Is that a crave?
So what a craving is it's a longing, it's a yearning, it's a chasing after the objects of your affection. That's one side of the equation, right? The other side, where the unenlightened mind sometimes lives, is it lives in this indifference, where it could care less about what's going on in your life or in the world. These are two opposite sides of the spectrum. There's this middle way where you can pursue something as a goal, objective, or interest without a longing, a yearning, and chasing after it. So the fact that you might be interested in knowing what the truth is, that's not what determines whether that's a craving or not. I'll give you an example. The craving, desire, attachment isn't the mobile phone. You might have a craving and desire attachment for it. You might be longing, yearning for it. It's what's going on in the mind. The mind is maybe wanting to be on the phone all the time. You might check your notifications. You might be checking your messages. When you get messages, you get happy. When someone doesn't send you messages, you get sad or frustrated. This is the mind craving, desiring, and being attached. This is the longing, the yearning. It's not the phone itself. It's not the material possession. It's the longing, yearning within the mind. So someone could have a craving, desire, attachment for the phone. Or you could be in the middle where it's like, okay, there is a phone, but I'm not attached to it. If I need it, it's used as a tool, and now I use it, and now it's done, and I can set it aside. If someone sends a message, fine. If someone doesn't send a message, that's fine too. But with craving, desire, attachment, you're going to want this phone to be permanent. My wonderful phone. Oh, and then when you misplace it, or you don't know where it's at, you're going to be shaken up. Where's my phone? Where's my phone? Oh my goodness, where's my phone? Or if it breaks, if it drops and it breaks, you're going to be upset because your mind's craving. You're attached to the phone. It's not the phone itself. It's the mind craving for it to be permanent. I'll give you another example that'll help illustrate this better, so you can see that it's not the object itself. Say that there's an individual that's going on a hike, and they've got a liter of water in their car. Now they're going to go for a hike on a trail, and they drive to the trail, and they get out of the car. They forgot their water, and they're walking down the trail, and they're like 30, 45 minutes down the trail, and they're like, my water, where's my water? And now they're all upset, and they're shaken up, and they run back to their car, and they twist their ankle along the way. They swing open the door. They get their water. Water. Okay, this is one example. But now there could be a second person who also has a liter of water in their car, and they forgot their water, and they're out on the trail, and they're like, I forgot my water. I'm going to be out here for like 6 or 8 hours. I should probably go get my water. And now they just turn around and calmly make their way back to the car. And now they get to the car and it's like, sweet, I got my water. Let's go on the trail. Let's go for a hike, right? Same object, same situation. The difference is the first person had a craving in their mind. They were longing, yearning. They were trying to hold on to this water permanently. And now, because of that longing, yearning, when they didn't have what they wanted, which was the water, their mind was shaken up. The second person, they were also needing the water. They were interested in having the water, but they didn't have a longing, yearning for the water. They understood this water is impermanent. All I need to do is make some wise choices, walk back to the car calmly, get my water, and then we'll head out on the trail. So it's not the object. It's not the water itself. It's how the mind is longing, yearning for this thing. So you could have a craving, desire, attachment to discover the truth, but you don't have to. It depends on how the mind is functioning and how you've trained the mind to function either with craving, desire, attachment, or without it.
Okay, so if I want to make more money, it is not necessarily to be craving, right?
Using the word want, that's the craving. I want to make more money. And if I get this more money, I'm going to be so happy. But if I don't get this money, I'm going to be sad or frustrated. If there's discontentedness in the mind, where you're getting what's called conditional pleasant feelings, that if I get what I want, I'll be happy. And if I don't get what I want, I'll be sad and frustrated. That's a craving, desire, attachment. But you could decide wisely that, hey, my family needs more income and I need to gradually work towards more income. Let me work on developing my skills. Let me get some improving levels of responsibility at my job, and let me gradually work towards more money. But you don't form your feelings on whether or not you get that money or not. Do you see the difference? So it's the action's the same. You're still working towards more money. It's about how does the mind do it? Do you chase after it? And now you're haphazardly making all these unwise decisions just because you're chasing after this money, and you can only be happy if you get that money. And then if you don't get the money, you're sad. Or are you just gradually working towards this money, understanding that it's important in order for you to improve your life? You need maybe perhaps an improved income, but you're not forming your inner feelings based on this money. That's where you would like to get to, is that you're gradually working towards things as a goal, objective, or interest. A true goal is if you obtain it, you can, or you don't obtain it, you can still maintain your happiness. You can still maintain your joy. What some people do is they'll form a goal and they can only be happy if they get it. That's not an actual true goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment masquerading as a goal.
I think I get it.
You're starting to understand it, right? Yeah. This afternoon is where I'm going to really go into detail about this, and you'll understand it in a lot more detail. If you'd like to come, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's see, what time is it? Okay, so I usually end class around this time, even though there's more here. In the evenings at 9 p.m., I make sure I go through all 10 chapters, but in the morning like this, because we have a large audience here and online, we tend to just do whatever we do. We just learn whatever we learn. I'm not attached to covering all 10 chapters, right? If I wanted to cover all 10 chapters, I'd be upset that we didn't get to all 10 chapters. But you know what? We get to 1, we get to 2, we get to 3. That's fine. Doesn't matter because we're spending some time learning. So usually an hour and a half, 2 hours is what each student can really kind of learn, and then you need a break. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to thank you guys for coming to the temple. I appreciate you guys being interested to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. And at the same time, I'll invite you back. If you would like to come and learn some more, you can learn some more at 1 o'clock. We're going to take a little lunch break, and then I'm going to teach some more, which is an introduction to the teachings of the Buddha. And then if you'd like to come tomorrow what I'm going to be teaching is called the frequently asked questions section of the book, and that's where I teach in a more traditional style. And this afternoon I'll be teaching in a more traditional style as well. You guys will see how I guide you through versus a study group like this. And then on Monday, of course, there's the 5-day course, which is the foundation and the path to enlightenment. So you can attend any of these, whether you're here in Chiang Mai or not, because you can attend here, you can attend by the live stream, and even if you can't attend by the live stream, they're recorded, so you can actually watch the recordings as well. So thank you all. Whatever you guys decide to do, have a wonderful and lovely rest of your day, and perhaps we'll see you next time. Take care. Be well. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.